Merry Christmas.
My bag here.
Today's video is Die Hard. Now I realize it is 10 days until Christmas, but this does not mean that I am taking a stand in the debate on whether or not Die Hard is a Christmas movie. I just happen to be doing this video at Christmas time. I mean, hell, I released Waterworld the day before Halloween, and the last two Friday the 13ths, I've done Scream and The Neverending Story 2. So my release schedule is in no way, shape, or form an endorsement of the notion that Die Hard is a Christmas movie. But why the hell would you set it on Christmas Eve in the middle of a company Christmas party? It's LA. They could have literally had it be any time of the year. I mean, they obviously picked Christmas for a reason. Die Hard is the quintessential 80s action movie that was based off of a book. Get out of here with that. This is a balls-to-the-wall action movie. There's no way that could be translated to book form. What's next? You're gonna tell me that James Bond is based off of a book? Or how about Starship Troopers and Total Recall? Oh, hey, excuse me, Mr. Bookshop owner. I would like to buy the wonderful novel Death Wish, please. Psst, give me a break. Die Hard begins with New York Detective John McClane traveling to Los Angeles on Christmas Eve to try to patch things up with his estranged wife Holly, who lives in LA with both of their children. McClane is met at the airport by a limo driver named Argyle, and this is clearly John McClane's first time in a limo, and it's hilarious that he sits in the front seat because my first time in an Uber, I also sat in the front seat because sitting in the back seat seemed weird, but I am here to tell you that sitting in the front seat of an Uber is even more deranged, and it will put your Uber driver on high alert for the entire trip. We learned that Holly and McClane had a falling out because Holly got a great job in LA working for the Nakatomi Corporation, and John didn't want to leave his job in New York. McClane gets dropped off at Nakatomi Plaza where Mr. Takagi is hosting a Christmas party on the 30th floor. Takagi takes McClane to Holly's office to wait for her, and we get our first glimpse of the most 80s character to ever 1980s. Harry Ellis is a broker for the international division, and he's got the sweet 80s hair, sweet 80s beard, sweet 80s power suit, sweet 80s cocaine habit. He's the total package.
Show him the watch. It's a Rolex.
God bless you, Ellis. At that moment downstairs, several armed terrorists take over Nakatomi Tower. This group is led by Hans Gruber, who's played by the late great Alan Rickman in his first major film role, and he just knocks it out of the damn park. The rest of the crew is comprised of your standard bad guys. You've got your geeky tech guys, several scary Germans, random Italian Peter Brady's, Huey Lewis impersonators. Oh! And the sorrow of Moldavia. Guys, he's suffering from Carpathian kitten loss. He misses his kitten. It's a good crew. First phase of their plan is to disable the phone lines and lock down the whole building so no one can get in or out. And I'm guessing the escalators are just tied to the same system that puts the gates in place. Like, I'm hoping he didn't go out of his way to disable them, because just like Mitch Hedberg said, an escalator can never break. It can only become stairs. Oh, I'm sorry. An escalator can never break. It can only become stairs. Alright, so they take the whole 30th floor hostage, but John McClane manages to escape to the stairwell, and the rest of the crew fans out to complete their assigned tasks. I always like the scenes in movies where the bad guys come in with such a well-orchestrated plan and everyone knows their assignments and exactly where to go and what to do, and everything is just timed to perfection. But it's even funnier to picture them in a warehouse before this operation, acting out all the scenarios over and over again until they get them right. And like, they have things planned in this heist for several hours out. So you're looking at weeks of rehearsals, and with bags of explosives and equipment you have to haul in, you're gonna have to have at least 2 dress rehearsals and 1 complete run-through. That's just my fun little way to completely ruin the illusion. But despite all of that preparation, they have one asshole named Carl who almost completely derailed the whole thing just for the sole purpose of messing with his brother.
999, Bob!
So they're pretending to be terrorists. We find out that Gruber actually wants the $640 million in bearer bonds that Takagi has in their vault. And there are 7 safeguards protecting the vault, and the hacker Theo can disable 6 of them, but the 7th one is impossible to bypass on their own. McClane pulls the fire alarm, but the criminals are able to call off the authorities, and one of the henchmen, Tony, goes to check out the floor that the fire alarm is on, And you know what? You gotta respect any terrorist who wears sweats to the big heist. Like, you got all these other tryhards who are decked out in tactical gear and jeans. Like, if I'm gonna be taking over a whole building, I'd want to be comfortable too. I mean, you have full range of motion in sweats. You're all constricted in jeans. Even cargo pants don't have the full range of motion that you would need. McClane kills him and sends his body back to the 30th floor to taunt Hans and his gang. Pretty weird thing to do in a non-Christmas movie. Just saying, like, I'm not taking a side here. But you have a terrorist in a Santa hat and the phrase, "ho ho ho" on his lifeless body. I mean, even in a life or death situation, John McClane felt compelled to make Christmas references. You would only do that in a Christmas movie. Like, let's say your movie took place on Arbor Day, just like the most obscure holiday. No one even knows when it is. But if they take the time to mention that it's Arbor Day, then guess what? You have yourselves an Arbor Day movie. No one would even dispute that, because why the would you mention that it's Arbor Day unless it's important? You know, I think one of the arguments against this being a Christmas movie is because it's a violent action movie and people get murdered. But guess what? So is Black Christmas, and I would think that everyone would consider that to be a Christmas movie. And some people will say, oh, but it was released in July, so it can't be a Christmas movie. But let me ask you, do you consider Hocus Pocus to be a Halloween movie? Pretty unanimous yes on that one, right? Well, guess what? It was also released in July, so the date of release is irrelevant. Again, I'm not taking sides here. McClane makes his way to the roof and tries to alert the police to the terrorist takeover, and he encounters a cop that is shittier than the one that was sent to check on Kevin in Home Alone.
This channel is reserved for emergency calls only.
There's no one home. The house looks secure. I'm to count their kids again.
Like, they have to be related. They do eventually send Sergeant Al Powell to check it out. And Al Powell is played by Reginald Vell Johnson, and I think it's absolutely delightful that Reginald Vell Johnson has been typecast as a cop. Powell doesn't notice anything suspicious at Nakatomi Tower, so he's getting ready to leave when McClane throws the body of one of the henchmen on his car and opens fire, which finally gets the police to take the situation seriously, and they swarm the plaza. McClane has possession of the detonators that the terrorists need, and McClane begins to bond with Sergeant Powell over the radio, and Powell genuinely seems like a stand-up guy. And then there's this asshole. Deputy Chief of Police Dwayne Robinson shows up, and oh my god, this prick. And then there's this asshole. Richard Thornburg shows up, and he's a slimy reporter reporting live from Nakatomi, and you know what? We'll deal with this dude later. Robinson thinks that McClane is lying and doesn't believe that there's a hostage situation, so he sends his crack team into the building to check it out. Let's go! Oh guys, be careful, there's a sticker bush over here. Oh, that's okay, Gregory. You tried. Let's bring Jonathan in with the torch. See what he can do, okay, buddy? And so after 15 minutes of trying to gain entry, this alpha unit forgets that glass is breakable, and so Robinson sends in a freaking tank, which the terrorists immediately blow up with a rocket launcher. McClane is pissed, so he blows up the entire lobby of the tower, and when he's telling Powell about it, Robinson takes the radio and tries to yell at him, but he learns extremely quickly that you can't yell at John McClane. I'm sure McClane's own police chief probably knows not to talk shit to him. You think he's gonna care about you? You are 3,000 miles from his jurisdiction.
You listen to me, you little asshole. I'm a
Asshole? I'm not the one who just got butt on national TV, Dwayne.
And just the derisive use of Robinson's first name. Just top notch. He insults people like a 12-year-old. And I mean that in the nicest way possible. Like only a 12-year-old can just dig into your soul with an insult. And that is John McClane, through and through. Like, John McClane is top 5 coolest movie characters ever. And in case you're wondering, Ernest is number 1. And like, they should have shown Hans listening in and laughing when McClane says that. Like, just have him shake his head and utter a respectful, holy shit. And as if this hasn't been a shit show already, Ellis gears up to handle this situation the only way he knows how.
I negotiate $1 million deals for breakfast. I think I can handle this Euro trash. Hey, frickin' talk, huh?
Oh, Ellis, you are exquisite.
Hans, Bobby, I'm your white knight.
Like, I'm gonna need an Ellis prequel film, stat. And also, wouldn't it be hilarious if Ellis asked the terrorists if they had any coke, and then they brought him a coke? I'm just gonna pretend that that's what happened.
They want the detonators, or they're gonna kill me.
Ah, sweet dumb Ellis. And you know, you really begin to question what exactly Ellis's role was at Nakatomi, because he is a god-awful negotiator. Like, part of being a good negotiator is the ability to read people, and everyone in this room has been itching to murder Ellis since he walked in, but he is too coked out of his mind to even notice. And McClane won't give up the detonators, so they murder Ellis. Poor stupid son of a bitch. Hans then gives them 2 hours to release a dozen political prisoners in order to keep the authorities busy so they can finish their plan. And then there's these assholes. So the FBI shows up, led by Agent Johnson and Agent Johnson, and they take over the whole operation. And inside the building, Hans goes to check on the explosives that they planted when he runs into McClane, and Gruber pretends to be a hostage who managed to sneak away. And Alan Rickman, man, he had the most amazingly recognizable British accent, but he just slips into an American accent with zero problems.
I spent a weekend at a combat ranch. You know that game with the guns that shoot red paint? Probably seems kind of stupid to you.
Like, his American accent is better than mine. McClane sees right through the ruse, but before he can do anything, Gruber's men shoot up the place, and McClane has to escape through broken glass in his bare feet. And while he's picking the glass out of his feet, Powell tells him that he was demoted to beat cop because he shot a 13-year-old kid because he thought that kid had a gun. Yikes. Okay, that's a whole new wrinkle to Sergeant Powell's story. Theo manages to break through the 6th lock, which then triggers the electromagnetic seal that they can't cut locally, but the FBI cuts the power in hostage situations, and that breaks the seal, thus opening the vault. Thornburg goes to McClane's house and threatens to deport their nanny if she doesn't let them in to interview McClane's young children. And yes, it really is true, this man has no dick. He puts the kids live on the air, and Hans discovers that Holly is McClane's husband, and he takes her with him while he sends the rest of the hostages up to the roof. McClane discovers that the roof is wired to explode, but before he can warn anyone, Carl finds him and beats the shit out of him until McClane hangs him from a chain. McClane makes his way to the roof and starts shooting to get everyone to go downstairs, but the FBI thinks that he's a terrorist, so they start shooting at him, and Gruber decides to blow up the roof right as McClane jumps off the building using a fire hose as a rope, and he swings down and he shoots out the glass and repels back into the building, and man, this movie is cool. And McClane confronts Hans, and when Gruber is about to kill him, McClane grabs a gun he taped to his back and shoots out the window. And as Hans is hanging on to Holly, he pulls his gun to shoot right as they release Holly's watch, causing Hans to fall 30 floors to his death. And to this day, this is the most realistic falling out of a building scene ever. Well, actually, besides the other guys. That one was pretty phenomenal, but like, remember RoboCop? Delightful. So the day is saved, and McClane and Holly get ready to meet Al Powell face to face when Carl suddenly appears, and I always thought that he was shaking off a blanket, which seemed weird, but I guess they actually put him in a body bag and wheeled him out, and that's what he's shaking off of him? I mean, that makes way more sense. I mean, not the part about loading a dead body with his gun, but whatever. And he's about to shoot when Sergeant Powell finally gets his first justified kill in the line of duty. You know, it's crazy to think that if qualified immunity wasn't a thing, Powell wouldn't have been around to save McClane. So that was the masterpiece known as Die Hard. And honestly, when I think about it, Christmas is really just the backdrop here. Like, a true Christmas movie would have to be about Christmas. Like, it would be a movie where if the holiday were changed, the whole movie would change. Like, Elf is a Christmas movie because Elf wouldn't work if it took place at, like, Easter. It might even be a little sacrilegious, I don't know. But Die Hard could have honestly taken place on literally any random day with only a few minor references needing to be changed. So in conclusion, I have made excellent arguments for this being both a Christmas movie and not a Christmas movie. It's a Schrodinger's movie.